The following content has been provided by New St. Andrews College in Moscow, Idaho. For more information, visit us online at nsa.edu.
Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison, that's right.
Once again, we've gathered in the car for an episode of What Have You.
With the Dr. Pepper.
Becca's wearing her podcast
Oh my
chic
word,
outfit.
she's making fun of
It's a cold day. It
It's
got
not
cold
good.
here.
My outfit's bad.
Becca's wearing a t-shirt and then a dressy-ish sweater. And then
Well-
a large crew neck sweatshirt on top of it, like vintage Gap.
Yeah, vintage Gap. Probably,
cotton.
I'm going to say 1993. is
Maybe
my
it
guess.
would have been so cool then. And it's just
not
a crew
it's
neck.
not a flattering cut.
Well, so it's over the top of her sweater
Over a
and
sweater.
shirt. And so when I got in the car, all I saw was this sweatshirt with a long dangly gold necklace on top of
I'm
it.
not-
Like, what have you, Becca? What have you?
Well,
what have you done with
I had
this?
on an outfit earlier in the day, and I had a necklace on with it. Then I got cold, so I put on a sweatshirt over the top of everything before I came out to drive, because I know what it was. Back up. I was going to drive over here, and I didn't want to wear a coat because I felt like that would be bunchy.
Then you'd be stuffy
So
and rumply
I-
during the podcast
so
when you're
I-
like, I do have to take us
So I
off.
put on a sweatshirt. And anyway, then somehow or other, the necklace came with the sweatshirt. And
Podcast chic.
and
That's what it is.
Rachel's been nonstop making fun of me since she got in
Yeah.
and taking pictures of it.
It's all right. We're not making fun of my outfit today because there's nothing to talk about it. There's nothing good or ill about it.
No.
It's just a blank of an
No,
outfit.
My outfit is...
My
It's really
struggle,
gone off
I
the
will tell you,
rails.
I struggle indefinitely with my hair, and that is because I fail to take the time to do it. It is something to me that is like, if I blow dried it, then I'm like, let's pretend that I styled it straight today. But I didn't.
That's
But I
funny.
should. So that's a thing, and I always run out of the time I want to commit
You
to
can
my
see
hair.
that my hair is being excessively stylish today.
Yeah.
I have
Well,
it in a loop on the top of my
Between
head.
the two of us, we could just do a style
And
feature.
I'm growing my hair back out again, which I despise. I hate
Yeah.
it.
There's nothing like the length of hair that no one ever asks to get their hair
No,
cut
it's
to.
right at
You
the-
never come and be like,
No.
I'm just thinking an inch below my shoulder.
Yeah, I'm thinking right where it'll go down my collar, if possible.
Could you hook me up with a hairstyle that will awkwardly bunch in my coat
I know.
around the hood?
Oh, and it's
It will
so
not
bad.
swing nicely or look
No,
good.
no. And mine is all, it has no rhyme or reason to it, because when I had it shorter, it was cut to be that style.
Right.
Now it's in the grown out, so it's not a cute shape for the length that it is. So the whole thing is
I am a
difficult.
lifelong hair underachiever on, like, it's just a problem. I always think I'm like rededicating myself to I will get this cut in a style again, but I almost universally get it cut into a style and then just let it grow forever until I can't take it anymore, and then I get it cut again.
That's where I am. In
What
the
I
grow
am not,
forever
what
part.
I am not is that person who schedules their next appointment when they get their haircut.
Yeah.
I have never, I don't think ever, maintained a haircut.
I did pretty well for a couple years. Then I was like, I'm sick of this. I'm growing it out. So
Yeah.
here I am growing
What
it
my-
out. And it's almost long enough for me to stick it up in a pen, which I
Which
have
is
been
Becca's
doing.
signature. She
It's
balded herself.
balded myself. So sure.
But there was you remember the spot, because you did your hair like that for so long.
Maybe.
That you developed
throw
a
it.
bald spot in the place that nobody would look at. It was like dead in the middle of the back of your head. You had like a bald spot.
Was it a bald spot?
Oh yeah.
How do you know it was a bald
That's how
spot?
you showed it to me.
Wow.
Because every time you twist it with your pen and stab it, you were
Yeah.
like, that part
Yeah.
that got stabbed a lot. That part.
The thing is, the pen is a handy trick to know, because You can fling your hair up in a pen. You just twirl it around
can't.
and stick it through.
You can. I can't.
I've been doing this since like math class in high school.
It matches your sweatshirt,
You're-
1995.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like when you're sitting there. Well, no, it wasn't in at the time, and it's not in now. It's never been in. It's just
It's
handy.
timeless. It's a timeless
timeless
Bic design.
Well, and then the little top will stick out, and it is a little Bic top, and people go, did you know you have a pen in
You're
your
like,
hair?
yeah, that's
And
how
you're
I
like,
did it.
How did that get there? How did I get a pen in there? But then I have
People
also
do this with like chopsticks,
but
I
like
think.
countless times I've had to stop and show people like in the grocery line how I put it up. Like I have to take it down and do a demonstration because everybody's like, wait.
I used
How
to
did
do
you
that
do
with
that?
you know those for a long time I would wear my hair with those. Well, I don't even know what it's called. You know when you put it in a ponytail and then you separate it right above the ponytail holder and flip it through.
Yeah.
It's a classic homely design. If you wear your hair like that all the time, sorry, I called it homely. It's not one of my faves, but I would wear it like that. But instead of pulling the ponytail all the way through, I would push it a little bit in.
Oh yeah.
And then flare it out so the curls.
Oh,
So
yeah, I
it would, like
remember
it
that.
contained it all on the back of your head without doing the.
yeah, it was cute.
I did that, but the problem that I face is that my hair gets. I just as soon as it's long enough for me to get it out of my eyes, off of my neck, I then just start wearing it up all the time. I just prefer my hair to be out of my
Well,
body. And
me
then,
too.
And
And
then
so if
it's
I wear
not
it up-
always really.
Or if my hair's too short to wear up all the time, I wear a bandana in it all the time so that it's out of my face.
Yeah.
So
I don't do that.
Basically,
So the pin, it does not hold. But one hairstyle that I used to merging these thoughts that I wore in the 90s was
Wow.
really unclassic.
okay.
It was like a ponytail, but my hair was really long.
Okay.
But I don't know why. Like, because I never wore it down. It was
Okay.
like I wore it up, put it in a ponytail, and then I would twist it into a bun, and then I would tie a bandana around that.
Oh my goodness! I
Yeah.
remember you doing that.
That's not one of the ones that you wish you
Oh.
had done. It's not one that you look
I-
back
no.
on with like, wasn't that a
No.
great idea?
Mm-mm.
But I did it faithfully.
That's funny.
There was also an era where I only wore my hair in a braid, and I remember Mom saying, "Rachel, you don't want people to say." You know, Rachel, she's that girl with the braid. And what kills me is that my almost 13-year-old daughter has apparently become known as the ponytail because she only wears ponytails all the time.
Mm.
And she says that the
I'll
girls
have to teach her the pen trick.
yeah, the girls in her class were make fun of her for being. They say that the ponytail is her spirit animal. I'm like, oh, I
That's
guess you're a
funny.
lot like your mother in
That
this
is
way.
really
You just
funny.
find something that works. And one time, when in the early years of doing her own hair, she was committed to a low ponytail, which reminds me of that awesome. Wasn't it a
Oh,
meme? The meme
so
about what would it be like to wear your hair in a low ponytail and not look like a founding father?
because it's so true.
So does
So
never look
true,
good.
no.
So then
Well, some people look good, but not me.
but it's not me, no.
Never.
And I told her at the time, I was like, no, because when your ponytail is too low, it looks like it's frowning. I was like,
It does.
and I said, you cannot have a grumpy looking ponytail. It has to be up higher where it looks
Yeah.
like it's smiling. So now she's just a committed high ponytail wearer.
Okay,
But we used to have these little reckonings about, is this a grumpy ponytail or a cheerful one?
Are you seeing what I'm seeing right now?
Let's not talk about it. It's snow.
Guys,
Corn snow.
snow.
You can hear it, which means
Yeah.
it's corn snow, not
But look, this is legit snow.
You're
And
here.
it's October, and here we go. Wow. And there's snow on the mountain this morning. Actually, a significant amount of snow on the mountain this morning.
yeah. It's
So,
fall. It's fall for
ta-da.
sure. Okay, someone on our Facebook page was asking how we deal with mothering mistakes.
Yeah.
So I think we should divide this category into little mistakes, like I just blipped it with someone, or I just was unkind,
Like I was
or
just ugly to somebody.
I was a wee bit, harsh, or
Yeah.
whatever. Those are the things that you just get right as fast as you got them wrong.
Yep. It's
Right.
just like when you spill something on the floor, you clean it up. Just do it
It's
that way.
not really the biggest issue in all the land.
No,
It's
but I would
the life work of living together with other people.
But
and
I
staying
would
in
insert,
fellowship.
though, that it's super important that you not just fix it in your heart and then try and
Pretend it didn't happen
pretend
to
it didn't
others.
happen. Yeah. Just actually have the humility to go to your kid, even if he's 3, and say,
I shouldn't
I
have done
shouldn't have been rude just now.
that. Yeah.
or
Or forgive me for being flustered about
Yeah,
stuff.
and one of the things we've always tried to do is the repentance should be as public as the sin. So if everybody saw you do it, then everybody should see you make it right.
Mhm. This is reminding me of something. Go ahead, finish what you were gonna say.
Yeah,
because-
just that, like, it's important that you fix it with God,
Mhm.
and it's important you fix it with all the people that witnessed it. So, but that can be done pretty easily. It's like if you
Right.
just yelled at everybody because they took the cushions off the couch, well, go back and say, would you forgive me for being upset? I shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
And I think moms often worry that if they do that, it will make the kids feel like they were right.
Or it will cheapen
take-
their authority
Yeah.
in some way, when it really does not.
No.
And in bigger situations, not with your kids, although I guess it could be if you have a long trouble with a kid, is that it's more important that you're obeying God than that you keep your power situation in a relationship.
Yep.
So if you're like concerned that, well, if I confess to my sister that I did this, say I have a sister who's an unbeliever and I'm whatever, and then I was snarky at her, but I don't want to go tell her that I did that because
Right.
then I would be like cheapening. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you don't do any kind of strategic work with obedience or disobedience. You just obey. Like, that's what you do, and God will use it. You don't like think, oh, I can't confess that because then, you
Right.
you do it. And with your kids, you do it. And one of the things that's important is that your kids know that you're in authority because God put you in authority, not because you're universally right.
Yes.
So
goodness sakes,
you
yes.
should know that, and they should know that you know that, and you're
But
like,
also-
well, I'm your mom, and God wants you to obey me, but there's no claims of you should obey me because I know it all.
No. And the other thing is, I feel like you need to be able to humble yourself, because if you won't, it's pretty universally true, God will humble you.
Oh yeah.
And you would rather do it willingly at the front end than have
Amen.
it done to you at the back
Amen.
end.
Amen. Get it all out there.
And the other thing is, it's a great deterrent.
Oh man, the more when you really have to go be like, children, everyone, forgive
Yeah.
me for the way that I was unkind to you and I dishonored God by being angry or upset or like it's not something that you want to write into everyday's activities.
No. And you know what else? I think one of the places where I think there's a lot of temptation for moms, I feel like we were just talking about this with somebody recently. Maybe it was while we were at the conference. Is when you're having people over. So company is coming, it's a frenzied time, you're trying to have everything clean, you're trying to have it all put together, and so you're yelling at the children.
Because what's important right now is that nobody see any mess in our house.
Yeah,
It's
so
like
we're
so
gonna
ridiculous.
basically waft a stink smell through the whole house.
Oh, my word.
In a spiritual sense.
It's so true. It's so true. Getting out my diffusers for my essential oils of vainglory
sin.
and
The oils of doom. I'm
the
wafting.
oils of no one wants to be here right now, but luckily.
But somebody was just saying that like their family hates it when they have company because everybody knows it's no fun. Mom is a pain when we have company over.
It's
So
like,
it's
ooh, doggy, better
I
get
feel
some
like-
things right there.
yeah, but if you actually have the self-discipline to put it right when you do that, it's interesting, I think, how you can actually make strides in your own sanctification about not being that way when you have company coming.
Well, because actually, if you have to put it all right, that hurts in some way, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you didn't brush over
Right.
it that you did
And
that.
so-
then what happens is that you start thinking preventatively.
Yeah, you're
you
like-
start thinking, you know what's not cool?
Yeah.
Doing that before everyone
Yeah, and like
comes over.
what, in that hot sauce moment between 3:30 and 5:30,
when you're
whatever,
like,
when
why doesn't anybody care? I'm just trying to grate the cheese and you're just messing everything up. that important. Like,
No.
you just, how are
No.
we losing all perspective here?
But that is a point of testing, I think. There's other times, like maybe Sunday morning, trying to get everybody ready for church.
Oh, I should tell my best Sunday morning one. Because so when we were, when we had kids, well, first of all, when we just got married, we like get to church just right on time. Right before, right on time, just barely right on time. Then we have a child and we're just still getting to church just right on time. We're just barely right before. Then we have 2, then we have 4. We're always just right. Like, we're always just squeaking in at the moment. And we're like, what?
This is the same principle for why you can be on time before daylight savings and after, but you're still just right hovering at the mark.
How do you
why
do
is
it?
it possible?
Yeah, why is this possible? So we had gotten really trying hard to make it early to church when the twins were babies, but it was murder. And you only do it once a week, so it was not you can't like, oh, we'll do better tomorrow morning. We're like, we're just, every week was a new fresh problem. So we were losing shoes. It was a real theme of that time. Children with missing shoes, like, and they're always somewhere like in a stock pot or down a heat vent. Yeah, they don't put their shoes. It's not like, it's like something happened with the shoes. So we were trying to like troubleshoot, why are we late, and then we'd have like, we're ready to go, and one of the twins would have a blowout. Like, start fresh on the outfit, start over. We'd be right on time again. And then this happened for weeks in a row. Like, we were trying so hard. And so then we had this one just perfectly executed Sunday morning. And we were so proud of ourselves. We were just like, yes, we are in the car. We are ready to go. And we got, everybody's clothes had been laid out. Breakfast was ready. We just nailed it. We're in the car. We're like pulling out. So Luke backs out of the garage and then turns. And then he stopped. Something like, I don't know what happened. He saw something out his car door. Something that fell out of the car. I don't know. I'm not even sure what he was doing. But he stops for a second and leans out. Like, he opens his car door and leans out to grab something off the floor. And then as he sits up, his right elbow comes across and he just elbow punches my coffee cup, which I'm holding. And I just like bloosh, like the whole coffee all down the front of me. And this is how desperate we were to be on time. We just sat there in silence looking at each other, and then I was like, just go. So I wore, it was like it was a gray cardigan, and I was like, you can't really see it, it'll dry, but I regretted it so badly because I just smelled very aromatically of coffee the whole time.
Could be worse.
It could be worse, but it was still funny. And then one other time, we were like a block away from home when I realized I had mascara on one eye. And I was like, you have to go back, Luke. Go back. And he's like, no one will notice. And I was like, no, I can't live like this. I can't. I mean, like, if I had not worn any mascara, it would be different than one eye. Like, one eye was
it's
just
like
a little,
lipstick on one lip.
it was a little too mangy for me. So I was like, I can't worship with one eye of makeup on.
But anyway, the point is like, I think it's very worthwhile to try and just diagnose, when do I get cranked off?
Why don't you repent, and also repent so thoroughly that you don't care to do it again?
Yep. But the thing is, like, sometimes you might find the pressure point, like it's right before Dad gets home from work, or
that's a universal pressure
point. It's right when I'm trying to get dinner on the table, or it's only when company comes, or maybe it's inexplicably you quarrel with your husband on date night every time, or maybe it's whatever, Sunday morning, or it's that time of the month and you just excuse it because you're cranky.
Because universally it's my favorite time to be
One
mean.
thing that Mom, I thought, was so glamorous, that she just right at the beginning, and when I was in high school, she was like, here's the thing. You know it's coming every month. Yeah. You can pray and be ready for it.
Tough luck convincing me.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not going to talk me into thinking you can't handle this.
You cannot get off on the hook of, oh, I'm just hormonal. It's like,
no.
You're coming.
Please.
It's a routine. You know it's coming. Just pray in advance that God will have you ready.
Being that mother that I'm sure every teenage daughter I'm altogether too amused at these problems this
Okay.
age. I mean, the whole scene is one that, but I was like, the thing is that we may be just talking about a hormonal issue, but like, if you had to have your leg amputated, that would be a real trial. And I was like, and you still would need to rejoice in the Lord completely.
Yep.
I was like, so we can't have this worldview where we
No.
believe that if a hormone walks past us, we're no longer responsible for
It's
our
like,
behavior.
Well, you
Something
don't know. I
much
have
bi-
a headache. I have a
Right.
headache, and that makes me angry.
That's why I lashed out at you. Like, really? Is
Like,
it why?
no.
And that brings me to what Grandpa always said about the bucket. If your heart is like a bucket, it's full of something, and when it gets jostled, what comes out is what's in it.
Yep.
And many women spend a lot of time trying to keep anything from jostling the bucket.
Yep.
Because they're like, when it comes out, it's super bad. But a far better place to spend your time is making sure that the content of the bucket
Yep.
is not a lot of selfish, stupid stuff, but it is so that if you get jostled, when it gets jostled, because it will get jostled.
will.
If what comes out
Is honey.
is honey, then it's really not that big. It's like, oh,
Yeah. But if you just slopped battery acid all over everyone because
because
got
somebody
bumped,
bumped into you.
then it's like, well, we know that there was battery acid in there to come out.
Yes, it
Just
was.
poised and ready.
Because that was not a bucket full of
Because
just creamy milk.
The old verse about out of the abundance of the heart,
The mouth speaks. Which is why when people say, I didn't really mean that, or I do think people try to generate fellowship by trying to make it be that moment right after the storm. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, I want to be in fellowship, and the only way I know to get there is if we all freak out, so that then at the end of that time we can say, we all said things we didn't mean.
Right.
I love you.
Yeah.
We'll be at peace now. But that's not a Christian
like a weird
pattern.
catharsis.
That is not a Christian pattern for
No.
relationships.
No.
So yes. The other thing though, the other side of that is bigger mistakes. Like if you think, okay, we were pursuing this in totally the wrong way. Like
Yeah.
this was like
Basically we raised you for 10 years with really bad expectations.
right.
That's a
even
different
then,
kind of
even
parenting
then, I would
mistake.
say you need to repent all the way down and tell your kids, like, be clear with your kids if they're older, if they're not, old enough to, if they're old enough to understand what you're talking about. Like,
If
be
they're old
clear
enough
with
to
them.
have been hurt by it.
Yeah,
sort
well,
of,
old enough to
to have
yeah.
noticed that they're being
yeah.
hurt by
So
it.
basically, if you can say, listen, we are convicted that we were not parenting you in a way that honored God, and we need you to forgive us. And I think it's important for parents to be totally open about saying, if you think, like, this is what we know happened, whatever, this is what we've confessed, this is what we're asking you to forgive us. If you think of anything that you think we ought to get right, like, please bring it to us. Tell us. We want to talk about it. We want to get it right.
Yeah.
But that's obviously a bigger scale of a thing
But
that you probably...
putting the mistakes right is a huge part of parenting, because when you're doing it, you're showing them what it looks like to put your mistakes right. And you're giving them the example that you want them to follow. And you can't be the person that says, do as I say, not as I do. Like, I'm going to insist that you always apologize when you do something wrong,
And
but
it's
I'm
amazing
not going
how
to.
often parents do that.
I know.
It seems so foolish, but it is still nonetheless a popular technique.
Yeah. And the thing that is amazing is that kids always end up following the example that you set much more deeply than they follow the rules that you
words.
articulate.
The words are not...
No, they will copy your anger. They'll copy your bitterness. They'll copy whatever, all of your self-centeredness. But it's they will copy that before they will do all the things that you say for them to do. You have a sweet attitude. Like, you stop it. Have a sweet attitude.
It's amazing how often that is what people... There was a woman yelling at her kids at Costco the other day, and it was totally that level of like, because they were being too wild.
Yeah.
Like, and she's just
Causing a dust up in the aisle.
like, woman, like, what is this about? Like, Jonathan, I said have good manners at Costco, and you're like, this is unbelievable. Like, some of us, more than
Oh, my
Jonathan, is having a lapse of manners. Like, we're having a great big
man.
old hunk and lapse of all kinds of things here. It's just a little bit.
But
yeah.
I do think children will see which one of your, like, on the whole, if your words and your actions do not match, it will be
Yes.
the actions that are convincing to them. And
Yes.
so,
and I would say that I have in with kids as they're dealing with their own emotions or dealing with things, it matters a lot to them also that you have a personal testimony of how you deal with things, because we're not just putting this bizarre, we're discipling them, like this is how a Christian does it. We're not like saying this is your rules for, which this is reminding me, one thing I think is really important if you have high standards is to recognize that sometimes your kids are not, they're trying to tell you about something that already happened, and you can be cutting them off at the pass, like over and over. Like, you need to, like when they say, I was just really frustrated with her, or so, like when they're trying to tell you something, you're like, you shouldn't be frustrated. Like I remember this one time really hitting me because I realized they didn't know how to process it, that it had already happened, and that I was treating it like them telling it to me was the sin. When the sin had happened in their heart, and them bringing it to me was not the same thing as them, like, and there was a weird frustration because I'm like, it was like I was like, no, you can't talk like that. But what they're trying to do is like, I had a problem, although they were not saying it that clearly. If they'd come up to say I had a problem, I need help with that, I would have been. If they would have flagged it clearly enough, I would have known.
well, one thing too though is I think what the point of discipline and everything, what the point of it is something that a lot of parents need to be more clear on, kind of, because I think when it comes to real basic parenting, we all have a natural intuition about how we do it. So like when your little baby is learning to sit up, or when your baby's learning to crawl, or when your baby is learning to walk, you know how to help them with it. You get down at their level and you hold their hands, and then you then like, see if you can do 3 steps, come to mama, like we all understand that. But when it comes to sort of spiritual disciplines, like we just drop the hammer, like you did it wrong, you transgressed the rule, you didn't do it the way I said to do it. And of course obedience is one of those things we're trying to teach them, but I think we should see it as, we're here helping you along, trying to get you to the place where you can do it by yourself. And so if you have this weird kind of vending machine discipline in your house where you put in this infraction, out comes this punishment, then you're not...
The brother offended chart is that.
But you know what I mean? Like you
no, because
did
I always
X,
wondered,
that
like, what would
means
you be like? Well, kicking your brother universally gets you a, like, what on earth, what kind of a world is this where you're like, it sounds worth it to me.
But it's like, it shouldn't be a slot
Let me go
machine.
check the numbers on that offense.
You're actually trying to teach your children to walk in the Lord, and so you help them along, and when they fall down, you help pick them back up. And the goal is to pick them up and help them walk. The goal is not to sit around like
and
lashing out.
Right, and you hear in Christian discipline things, often you'll hear that consistency is really important, and it is.
It is.
It is. I'm not trying to belittle consistency, but I am going to say that the consistency that is most important is parents who are trying to honor God and trying to communicate, that to their children. So if you think, you know what, actually this system is not working, it's not inconsistent to try a different method of teaching the same thing.
No, because like,
to be like, okay, that wasn't working, let's try something else.
You know the problem with a little girl who's trying to crawl in a dress, and she keeps crawling onto her dress, and then
further
she's
up
stuck.
It's the worst.
And it's like, and if you're trying to teach her to crawl and she keeps crawling into her dress, well, it's like, put her in something else, and then you'll do better.
What about some
or
leggings?
Stop on the slippy footy pajamas when they're trying to learn to walk. Like, give them bare feet or big clumpy shoes. Like, take the shoes off and see how that is. Like,
be a helper.
Like, because the real goal is to get them to be able to do it by themselves.
Right. So the goal is not to be ticking all the boxes on something or following the flow chart of the dry erase board through the 7 phases of restoration when somebody does. Like, you should be, and I think it's good and healthy for both the parent and the child to not be in just like going into like automated process.
Yeah.
Like where it's like, oh, something went wrong. Now we're just going in, like we can go on autopilot through this whole moment. It's good to have things changed up here and there and be, you're talking to them. You're like, do you understand that? Do you see that?
Yeah, or it's like, this keeps not working. We need to figure out what's going wrong and troubleshoot this and try and come up with a different approach rather than I printed off this printable. And so now this is how we discipline in this house.
This is it. Universally, this is the path. The one that I
because
got on.
Because I think the whole point is you're trying to raise friends in the Lord. You're trying to raise brothers and sisters in the Lord. And you need to realize that your role is to guide and teach and help and train and discipline when they're little, but so that they can stand up and walk next to you without your help. And you're not always going to have this.
And that just goes back to the bringing them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord and teaching them, train up a child in the way he should go. That's what I was going to say. The way he should go ought to be the way you're going.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we're trying to give them directions for somewhere we're not going. Yeah. We're trying to be like, come on. So at first you're carrying an infant. Later you're holding their hand. And then maybe you're giving them, as a toddler, little times of being on your shoulders or being around. But we're working to have them be companions on the same road. We're not working to be like, then you shoot off into the distance of your own life. It's one path. It's one staying in fellowship that we're trying to keep everybody.
And if you're trying to show them what it looks like to hop back up when you fall down, well, you'd better be the kind of person who hops back up when you fall down.
Yes, absolutely. So anything else, or is it time for us to talk about Christmas?
Probably.
It's time. I have something to say.
Please.
I got a box in the mail today from a listener who sent me the green Tupperware Fix and Mix with a lid.
Oh, man.
Yes.
I think you told us about this a while ago.
Well, I just like to say I did not
awesome.
imagine that kind of a payoff coming my way from having talked to her. And it was great. And she even wrote the note with Pilot friction pens.
I love it.
And coffee, yes. And anyways, that was a really fun gift.
That
so
is
now I'm
so
going to have
sweet.
to get back into get some dough going in one of those.
Awesome.
It's the perfect size for my dough needs.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
that's very
really
cool.
fun. But okay, well, are you cooking anything of interest?
I am cooking. Well, I'll tell you.
Becca does have a cooking of interest.
I have the most complicated event situation that I have to pull off by this Friday.
Oh, that was another question somebody had, and you're about to give a great answer.
Oh,
somebody asked about would we talk more about trying to feed big groups, and then I was laughing because I think once you get to like 50, you're in totally new territory where you have to think of imaginary other ways to do things.
I am in charge of the Reformation banquet for New St. Andrews this year, and it's kind of fun because I remember Mom did the first one.
didn't she?
And this is the 23rd, and I am in charge of it this year.
Oh my word! I'm impressed.
Isn't that crazy? I know. And so I am not cooking the whole thing because I also have to attend the event. So I'm trying to organize it. But from an organizational perspective, this is complicated because we are doing it in our newly acquired building, which is really fun. So it's going to be basically, you know how it is when you buy a house and your first dinner in the new house, you don't really have any furniture.
Maybe just sitting on the floor a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do a kind of formal dinner, but it's in this new building that's not been renovated. It's an old nightclub with this funky upstairs ballroom where we are going to...
You do have to sort of not look either way on your way up.
Well, they put up where you can't anymore. There's a firewall. So anyway,
firewall?
Yeah, they're putting in a firewall so that... Anyway, you just have to go upstairs now.
Nice.
So the whole really despicable part of the nightclub is not even accessible right away. But there's no kitchen in this building. So I am trying to pull off a dinner.
I think it sounds simple. You just need to get your woodland friends.
It's also,
you need to open a window and sing for your woodland friends
and they will
to come help you.
But the thing about this is that everybody dresses up like it's a formal dinner with no kitchen for 200 people.
Yeah.
Ta-da. And also,
I think I had a good idea though. Did you try the terracotta pot, the lid?
oh,
Tray.
I just ordered trays because it was going to be just as
trays,
expensive.
got it.
Well, ceramic. Anyway,
Okay.
so I have been trying to organize this, and I've got some ladies who are willing to help cook for me, but I have to like get all the ingredients, get them the recipes organized, when it's going to arrive, and I have to have the servers like figuring out how to
Right.
do this. So this is tricksy. But anyway, so I've been testing out recipes, and the thing I just made today, and I'll be real, so far, I am liking it. We're going to do chocolate tarts for dessert with red wine poached pears on top, and the pears are just stupidly good. They are so delicious. So anyway, Rachel's texting, so that's helpful.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
she's
just texting because I have a inconceivable text lineup that I think one of them is from my husband and the others are from children.
But anyway, so I have been testing recipes for this little thing, and we'll see if I end up doing a bunch of the cooking. I am going to be doing a ton of the setup and all of the stuff. So basically this week I'm going to be a very boring person to talk to because the only thing I'm going to be talking about is this.
Well, when you get past 50 people, it becomes like innovation station. You're like, so one of the things though that we've learned, I'm trying to think of some of the random ones. One is that, like, we've done this before, baked potatoes. You can roast a bazillion of them and you can bake them in your oven at one time, but if you pull them out early and pack them in a cooler, they'll finish cooking each other in there,
But
and
see,
they'll stay hot for a long time.
Here's why I resent you saying this right now, Rachel.
Yeah, I know why.
This brings up a big resent because I called her this morning.
I'm just trying to pass on to our listeners.
Yeah, she's like, here's a good idea, guys.
But not for
But
Becca's
when
thing,
I called
but,
her this
you
morning,
know.
and I'm like, Rach, how bad would it be if I just did baked potatoes? Because I could put them all in coolers and they could still be hot. And she's like, no.
I
And
didn't
I
say
said,
no. Didn't I
You
say
did.
it
You
seemed
said
a
that's
little...
a terrible idea. And I was like,
I
yeah.
didn't.
No,
I said I
you
didn't
did.
think it was the right thing with that menu.
Well, it wasn't. That's why
I said
I called.
a baked potato. A baked potato goes with like very few things really naturally. Like you would never do like chicken cordon bleu in a baked potato. Like you do like a steak in a baked potato, or like tri-tip in a baked potato. You don't do like...
Yeah, and I'm doing like a maple glazed pork roast. So it technically... anyhow, but I had a sort of a...
You shouldn't resent it, because I was going to say one of the other tricks was that you do the cooler corn, but...
I love cooler corn. This is so smart. Everyone, listen up. It's past the season, but remember it next year. Shuck a ton of corn. Put it all in a cooler. Dump a stock pot of boiling water over the top. Shut the lid and wait like 30 minutes. And then just pull out your corn.
That's what we do that at Sabbath.
It's incredible. So we'll just
it.
like bring a full cooler full of corn, and you can do so much of it because you never can boil that many in one pot. But it keeps it warm forever too, and it like keeps it at the perfect degree of doneness. It's like a really glorious
idea. The thing
idea.
that I find with once you get past 50 people is that you have to start moving into satellite cooking methods. Like you have to like pre-cook things and then
I know.
and then come back. It becomes more of a thing. We've done a fair amount of.
Yeah. So I've hired some ladies because 200 people
I haven't
is
made cordon bleu in like
lot.
years, but we should make that again because I think my kids would love that.
they probably would. But
don't.
anyway. So I've
My
hired
husband,
some ladies.
one time I made cordon bleu for some kind of a big event. This is before we were married.
Okay.
And we ended up with extras. I don't know why. Extras chicken cordon bleu. It was really good. But it made my husband does really like it. He was just joking at the time because they ate leftovers at their house. It was like a house of college guys, so they took all the leftovers. They were excited about it. And they joked about it like a week later. Said it was the chicken cordon bleu. Maybe I could eat something else. He loved it, but it's the cordon bleu after you've been going for it for lunch and dinner for too long. You start to be done.
So why are we talking about this? I'll tell you next week whether or not I live to tell the tale about this dinner, or I'm thinking maybe I should just call Pizza Perfection and tell them to be on standby.
Just call Winco and ask him to order you berries and get them done on time.
That's the thing. Like, could somebody order me some blackberries,
do that?
but then not deliver? That would be good.
Yeah. So I think we were going to talk about Christmas.
Yeah. Do you have a tip?
Becca's got a good tip on how to
I have
make
a tip.
your Christmas tree look
So-
full and luscious.
This is so funny. We used to always go cut our own Christmas tree in the woods. So if you've ever done that, you know that it's the cheap version because you have to spend like $5 for a tag.
Yeah.
And then
We have a lot of trees.
yeah, and then you just go out and cut it on down. And the problem that you encounter is that you go out in the woods and you find one that looks luscious and full. You cut it down and you bring it home and you put it in your living room and it turns out to have one branch. And that's all.
And the funny thing is that she's not even joking.
No.
It's like it might look like a real tree in the outdoors.
woods. Yeah, and then you
But
bring it
in
home.
the house, nope.
Nope, you can see right through it, and it's very sad. So,
They couldn't even like hold up a light strand.
no, it's really like
weak.
terrible. So,
But don't worry,
but don't
Becca
worry.
has a fix it.
I solved this problem. Although the last few years we've just been going and buying the tree at the lot because
Because
sometimes
sometimes
you gotta do
Yeah.
it. It's easier.
Uh-huh.
But there's something really fun about going out and cutting down the tree, and it's just a very festive thing. But then you have a sorry looking thing in your living room.
ruins the fun.
So when I thought of this once, and I was like, score, just buy 2 tickets. And so we bought 2 tags. We would go out and cut down 2 trees, and then we would stuff them together and like wire the trunks together
Zip tie them on
so
up.
that they look like one tree, but they're a little bushier. The problem is once we accidentally cut 2 different kinds of trees.
That's so good.
So it ended
You're like,
up
well,
being
this
like
is a mixed
some
medley.
of the needles are pokey, but not all of them.
So good.
Oh, and so anyway, if you're feeling cheap this year, just know that you can do that. You can zip tie the trunks together.
I remember one of the memories of my childhood. You know how you every once in a while have those moments where you're like, I remember this clearly from the wrong perspective.
Okay.
Like, where you're like, man, I don't know why Mom doesn't like it when we do that. I remember that. Nate and I deciding that the best way to decorate the tree would be to throw tinsel at it. like loose tinsel. Not
Yeah.
like, and I think we only ever had tinsel maybe one year.
Yeah,
it was
like
probably
maybe
that
once or
year.
twice,
It was that
yeah.
year. We did not normally have tinsel.
No.
And we were like, what if we just took this and just flung it at the tree? And I'm so funny because I remember being like, I wonder why Mom bought this if she didn't want us to do that
She
with
didn't
it.
want us to.
Now as an adult, I
Yeah,
see it differently.
you see
I
that
see
would
it.
be-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
Becca's hot tip is to zip tie 2 trees
yeah,
together.
you'll be surprised at the results.
You know,
Cheap hack, guys.
cheap. One year we went and got it. We got our tree from the Boy Scouts. We went with out in Potlatch.
They also struggle with that same problem.
Yeah, well, that's because they cut them down.
I know.
Yeah,
so if you're
then
gonna
they
buy
sell
a
'em.
Boy Scout tree,
You
buy
gotta buy
2
2 and zip
Boy
tie 'em
Scout
together.
trees. Yeah.
Well, we went out with Mom and Dad, and we were in the. We went in their truck because we didn't have a truck. We were newlyweds.
Yeah.
So we were in the back of their. It was our first married Christmas, I believe. We were in the back of Mom and Dad's truck. You know, the seats, not the way back.
Mhm.
And our trees were in the back. And I remember theirs and ours. And we were riding, and I was like, I think our tree's gonna blow out. Like it was like looking
yeah.
like it was gonna take
Yeah.
off, right?
Yeah.
And we're watching it like, oh no, I think the tree might. Oh dear, it shot out the back on the highway.
Oh,
so
no.
the tree just flies out, and we're that's not a good thing to hit
No.
a car behind you with.
No.
Like a full tree, not good. And but the car behind us didn't notice, and he was a truck, and it was such a flimsy little tree that it was big, but not that big, but somehow he came to pass us or something, or he drove over it. He drove over it. So for a long time, we're like, what happened to it? Where did it go? We don't know where it went. And then he passed us with it stuck in his back wheel well. He drives past us with our tree dragging behind it, and he was wrapped around like his axle,
Oh
like
my
it was so
gosh.
bendy at the top that it just whipped around his wheel, and he goes blazing past us on the highway.
Well, okay, our worst Christmas tree was there were some people in our church who had this sweet hookup of a guy who lived.
This is the worst Christmas tree ever.
This is so bad.
Ever.
So it was a house close to town, and you were allowed to just go on their property. I don't know if it used to be a Christmas tree farm, but they were like really nice trees. Like they were not like woodland trees. They were decent looking. And you could just hike around until you found one you liked, cut it down, and then mail them a check for $10. So it was a really good deal.
It was the ultimate hookup.
So we did that, and that was all great. And then the next year, maybe, I don't know if it was, I feel like we did it a couple years. And then the third year, we did it, went home, put up our tree and everything. Then we had lost his name or address or something. So we called our friends to be like, hey,
the connection,
like, could you give us that name again? And they were like, oh, they moved. They sold the house and moved. So we had just like cut it down, like basically
just the idea
right
of
in front of the house.
Strolling onto someone's property to cut down a tree with just zero self-awareness. What do you think? How about this one, kid?
We were in full view of the house, like just out in front of their house. We cut a tree down
so
and
bad.
we left with it.
And we're like, we'll send you a check for $10.
So bad.
Did you send them a check for $10?
I think we did, but we did. Well, I don't know because we didn't know who it was. Like we couldn't make it out to them. Like it was.
So, did you not go back and say it was us who cut your tree down?
I actually don't remember how we made restitution for that because it's hard to restore it. But can you hear the hail again? It's just hailing like crazy, or corn snowing, I guess.
It does look kind of like tiny hail.
Yeah,
it looks like rock salt. All right, well we should say
wrap
goodbye.
This puppy up.
We'll let you go.
All right.
Have a good day, people. Bye.
New St. Andrews College thanks you for listening.